You open the phone again. Fingers hover, waiting for a sign, a message, a reply, something to prove you're not invisible. It's not new, this reflex. You check, you wait, you refresh, as if their silence could rewrite your worth. It doesn't. It never has. The screen stays blank, and the weight grows heavier. Why do you chase when their absence already speaks? You think effort earns attention, that persistence proves value, but each tap, each scroll, only tightens the loop. It's not about them. It's about you, holding on to nothing, hoping for something. The cost isn't loud. It's quiet, a slow numbness, creeping into every pause. Each moment you give away, you lose a piece of control. You don't see it, but it's there, a system fraying, thread by thread. Seneca wrote, "You have power over your mind knot, outside events, a locked gate, untouched by their indifference. The wind howls, but the gate stands. What do you gain, clutching their silence tighter than your own breath? You think it's strength, but it's a trap. You've been here before, reacting, chasing, expecting, and each time, the same rejection. Look closer. What's left when you stop? The urge burns, but it passes. Their absence isn't your truth. Your silence is. You don't need their reply. You need your own. You scroll again. Why? To drown the quiet? To bury the pain? What do you find in that glow? The same rejection? The same emptiness? You tap, expecting change. Why? What shifts when you chase their shadow? You know the answer, but you move anyway. Is it habit or fear? You pause, then check again. For what? Proof you're enough? Their silence screams. Yet you listen harder. Why not stop? What holds you in that loop? You feel the urge to fill the void with noise, with hope, with anything. But what if you didn't? What's there when you let it sit? You've run before from this stillness. Why now? What breaks if you stay? You know the weight. You've carried it. So why add more? Look, what's left when you don't react? Principle 1. Stop chasing shadows. You reach out again. A text, a call, a glance at their profile. You know they won't reply, yet your fingers move. It's automatic. A reflex. Chase, as if their response could fill the hole. You tell yourself it's effort, proof of care. But what is it? Really, a loop. You send, you wait, you check. Nothing changes. The screen stays blank, but the weight grows. Each try, another layer of anxiety. You don't see it, not at first. The cost isn't in their silence. It's in your insistence. You give away control, piece by piece, hoping their answer will rewrite the rejection. It won't, it never does. You've been here before, expecting, clinging, chasing shadows that fade. Epictetus said, "You are not disturbed by things, but by the view you take of them. A shadow moves, but it's not real. It has no weight, unless you give it yours." Why do you run when standing still could break the cycle? You feel the urge to prove you're enough, to make them see. But what if you stopped? The pain stings, but it passes. Their absence isn't your truth. It's just noise. Withdraw. Let the shadow dissolve. Don't feed it. Don't chase it. You don't need their light. You have your own. You don't owe anything. The urge to chase lingers, but it's not your master. You've seen the loop now, its edges clear. What happens when you choose silence instead? Principle 2. Silence. Over-explanation. You feel it. The need to speak, to justify, You draft the words unsent. They crowd your mind, an urge to explain, as if clarity could mend their indifference. You think if they understood, they'd stay. You'd prove your worth, your truth. But what's the cost? Each word, a plea. Each sentence, a weight you don't need to carry. You've done this before, spilling reasons into their silence. And what came of it? Nothing. Just invisible. The more you say, the less you're heard. Their gaze drifts, your voice fades. You're not defending, you're begging. For a verdict they'll never give. The pain isn't in their dismissal, it's in your refusal to stop. You lose ground with every attempt to be seen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You need no one's permission to be yourself." A river flows. It doesn't ask the banks to notice. Why do you speak when their ears are closed? You feel the urge to fill the gap with proof. But what if you say less? The silence feels raw, like a wound exposed. But it holds. It's yours. You don't need their understanding. You need your own clarity. A locked door needs new defense. You've seen the trap, the pull to plead. Their silence isn't your failure. It's your signal. What happens when you choose stillness over words? You sit there, alone with the quiet. The urge to explain fades, like mist. You didn't speak, and nothing broke. The world turns without your oath. Saying less isn't weakness, it's silence. The quiet deepens, a space you're starting to know. What shifts when you let their words fall unanswered? Principle 3. The void is not the enemy. The quiet settles, and you flinch. No noise, no reply, just emptines. You see it as a threat, a hole where meaning should be. You rush to fill it, with thoughts, with memories, with anything but this void. You cling to what was, to what might have been, as if holding tighter could bring it back. You tell yourself it's strength, keeping their ghost alive. But what is it, really? A weight. Each memory you grip, another chain. Each thought you chase, another scar. The cost isn't in the loss, it's in your refusal to let it pass. You think the void will swallow you, but it's your grip that pulls you under. You've felt this before. The ache, the urge to rebuild what's gone. And each time, the same grief. Seneca said, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? A field lies fallow. It doesn't beg for crops. Why do you fight when the void only asks for breath? You feel it, the pull to rebuild, to hold on. But what if you let go? The emptiness stings like cold air on skin. But it clears. It's not your enemy. It's your space. You don't need to fill it. You need to stand in it. The void is where it clears. A man sat alone, staring at an empty chair. He didn't speak, didn't move, just breathed. The weight lifted, not because he fought, but because he stopped. The silence holds, no longer a threat. What shifts when you face the void without fear? Principle 4. Pause before the fall. The trigger hits. A word, a memory, a silence. Your chest tightens. The urge to react surges. You want to respond, to fix it, to make it stop. You type, you speak, you move, as if speed could outrun the pain. You think it's control, acting fast, showing strength. But what is it? Really? A fall. Each impulse you follow, another step toward regret. You've done this before. snapped back, chased closure, and landed in the same trap. The cost isn't in the moment, it's in what follows. A spiral. Thoughts looping, anxiety clawing deeper. You lose ground, not to them, but to yourself. You don't see it until the dust settles. The damage isn't their words, it's your rush to answer. Epictetus said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, a breath, a gap where you choose. Why do you leap when you could stand? The urge burns to act, to prove. But what if you pause? The pain pulses, but it fades. You don't need to fight it. You need to breathe through it. That space, it's yours. It's where you hold the line." Pausing reduces impulsive decisions by 30%. A single breath shifts the odds. You don't have to react. The quiet lingers, a space you're learning to trust. What opens when you let the impulse pass unanswered? Principle 5. Their absence is not your truth. You stare at the empty inbox, the unanswered call, the void they left. You think it means something about you. Their silence screams rejection, and you believe it. You hope blindly that their response could prove you're enough. You check again, refresh, wait, as if their absence defines your worth. You've done this before, tied your value to their gaze, their words, their presence, and each time, the same trap. The pain isn't in their distance, it's in your insistence it matters. You lose yourself, not to them, but to the story you tell. You think if they saw you, it would change. But what changes when you chase their shadow? Nothing, just more numbness. Their absence grows heavier because you carry it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not external events. A stone stands, unmoved by the wind. Why do you bend to their silence? You feel the pull to prove, to be seen." But what if you detack? You don't need their reply. You need your own ground. Their absence, it's just space. Not checking. You reclaim it. Reactive self. They didn't reply. Stoic self. And you don't need them to. Pain doesn't mean truth. The space clears. Their absence no longer your anchor. What holds when you turn inward instead? Principle 6. Break the mirror. You look for them in every silence, every pause, their opinion, their judgment. It's your mirror. You think it shows you who you are. You attack to their gaze as if it holds your truth. You ask, did I matter? Did I fail? You wait for their verdict to settle the shame. You've been here before, measuring yourself by their response or lack of it. You think their approval will quiet the doubt. But what is it? Really, a trap. You give them power to define you. Each question you ask, another crack in your control. The cost isn't their answer. It's your need for it. You spiral deeper into invisible. Because you believe their mirror, you don't see it until it shatters. Seneca said, "The wise man is sufficient unto himself. A flame burns. It doesn't need eyes to shine." Why do you seek what you already have? You feel the urge to ask, to know. But what if you observe? You don't need their mirror. You need your own clarity. Their judgment, it's noise. Witness it, don't wear it. Detachment is a form of respect. You broke their mirror, and your reflection stands clear. What opens when you stop needing their eyes? Epictetus, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses them. The silence holds. your truth untouched by their gaze. What shifts when you see yourself without it? Principle 7. Hold nothing. Your mind grips a memory, a moment, a ghost. You replay it, word for word, as if keeping it alive could change the past. You hold on because letting go feels like loss. You think it's loyalty to what was, to who you were. But what is it, really? A burden. Each loop you trace, another weight. You're not preserving, you're sinking. You feel the grief, sharp, familiar. You've done this before, clutching what's gone, expecting it to stay. Each time, the same ache, deeper now. The cost isn't in what left, it's in what you won't release. You give away your present to a shadow that doesn't breathe. You don't see it until the silence screams. A name, a promise, a wound. They pull. You let them. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's not in your control, it's not your concern." A river cuts stone, but only by moving on. Why do you anchor to what no longer holds? You feel the pull to keep it close, to fight the void. But what if you release? The grief bites, but it passes. You don't need to carry it. You need to walk free. Not holding is power too. A man burned his hands, gripping a coal long cold. He dropped it and walked away. The scars remained, but his steps were free. The silence settles, no longer heavy. What shifts when you hold nothing but your own breath? Principle 8. Refuse the noise. The phone hums, a notification, a fleeting distraction. You reach for it to drown the quiet, to mute the thoughts that rise unbidden. You overthink, scrolling, clicking, filling the space with anything but yourself. You think it's escape, a moment's relief. But what is it, really? A collapse. Each swipe, another crack in your system. You're not fleeing, you're feeding the numbness. You've done this before, buried the pain in noise, expecting it to fade. It doesn't, it grows, heavier, cloaked in static. The cost isn't in the thoughts, it's in your refusal to face them. You give away your clarity to a screen that offers nothing. You don't see it until the silence returns, louder now. Your mind, it's a machine, but you've let it overheat. Seneca said, "The mind must be given rest, or it will break." A storm rages, but the eye is still. Why do you run when you could stand in the center? You feel the urge to scroll, to hide. But what if you turn off? The numbness lingers, but it's not your truth. You don't need the noise. You need your own stillness. Stillness is enough. A woman sat, phone in hand, screen dark. She didn't check, didn't scroll, just breathed. The world didn't end, but her mind cleared. The silence deepens. No longer a void to fear. What shifts when you choose the quiet over chaos? Principle 9. Stand without begging. The message sits unsent. You stare at it, words carved from a need to be seen. You feel it, the pull to please, to make them understand. You imagine their reply, a nod, a sign you're not invisible. You think it's connection, reaching out. But what is it, really? A plea. You've stood here before, crafting, waiting, hoping they'd notice. A moment, late at night, fingers trembling over send, and what came? Silence, deeper now, The cost isn't their absence. It's your surrender. Each word you offer, another piece of your control lost. You don't see it until the quiet bites back. You're not asking, you're begging. For a glance, for a crumb. The isolation grows, not from their distance, but from your chase. Marcus Aurelius said, "No one can rob you of your own dignity. A mountain stands. It doesn't bow to passers-by. Why do you kneel? For eyes that look away. You feel the urge to send, to prove. But what if you walk away? The pain stabs, but it passes. You don't need their nod. You need your own ground. You can end without saying a word. 10 seconds. You didn't send. The urge dissolved, and you stood taller. The silence settles. No longer a weight. What shifts when you choose your own space over theirs? Principle 10. See the loop. The cycle spins. You feel it. A trigger, a thought, a pull. You avoid, turn away. Bury it in noise. You open an app, scroll past the ache, as if motion could outrun the fear. You think it's safety, keeping the pain at bay. But what is it, really? A loop. You dodge, you distract, you delay, and yet it waits. Always there, in the quiet you won't face. You've run this path before, fleeing the shadow, only to find it closer. Each escape, another layer of anxiety. The cost isn't in the feeling, it's in your refusal to meet it. You lose, not to the thought, but to the habit of running. You don't see it until the silence catches you. The loop tightens because you feed it. Epictetus said, "Things themselves don't hurt. It's your judgment that does. A wave crashes, but the shore remains. Why do you flee when you could stand? You feel the urge to hide, to numb. But what if you sit with it? The fear rises, but it crests. You don't need to outrun it. You need to witness it. Let go isn't weakness." The man ran from his thoughts, each step heavier. He stopped, looked back, and saw nothing chasing him. The silence holds, no longer a threat. What shifts when you see the loop for what it is? Principle 11. Unhook from expectation. The thought strikes. They'll reply. They'll see. They'll change. You hold it tight. This hope blindly, as if it could shape their silence. You wait, eyes on the screen, heart on the line. You think it's patience? Faith in what could be. But what is it, really? A chain. You attack to an outcome you can't control. Each moment you linger, another knot. You've waited before, expecting, projecting, and landed in the same rejection. The cost isn't their absence. It's your insistence on their return. You give away your present to a future that doesn't exist. You don't see it until the quiet reveals the weight. The expectation grows heavier because you feed it. Seneca said, "You suffer more in imagination than in reality." A bird flies. It doesn't wait for the branch to call. Why do you bind to what isn't yours? You feel the pull to hope, to dream. But what if you unhook? The pain cuts, but it fades. You don't need their answer. You need your own freedom. Disengage. Let the expectation fall. You don't owe anything to hope. Expectation. They'll come back. Reality. And you don't need them to move forward. The silence clears, no longer tethered to their will. What shifts when you choose your own path? Principle 12. Silence the echo. The voice hums inside your head, their words or what you think they'd say. You replay, dissect, overthink, as if decoding could change the past. You tell yourself it's understanding, finding closure. But what is it, really? A cage. Each thought you chase, another bar. You're not solving, you're trapping yourself. You've heard this echo before. Late nights, looping their silence, their absence, and each time, the same shame. Sharper now. The cost isn't in what they said, it's in what you let linger. You give away your peace to a noise that isn't there. You don't see it until the quiet cuts through. The echo grows because you listen. Epictetus said, "You become what you give your attention to." A bell rings once, then fades. Why do you strike it again and again? You feel the pull to analyze, to know. But what if you step back? The shame stings, but it quiets. You don't need to solve their words. You need your own silence. Withdraw. Let the echo die. Silence isn't surrender. A woman sat, mind racing with their words. She closed her eyes, breathed, and the echo dissolved. The quiet remained hers alone. The silence deepens, no longer crowded. What shifts when you choose the present over their past? Principle 13, disarm the trigger. The moment strikes. A name, a song, a fleeting memory. Your pulse quickens. The urge to react rises. You want to respond, to reach out, to drown the spark. You think it's instinct, protecting yourself from the pain. But what is it, really? A reflex. You felt this before. The jolt, the pull to act, to fix the ache. Each time, you followed it and landed in anxiety. The cost isn't in the trigger, it's in your answer to it. You give away your control to a fleeting signal. You don't see it until the spiral begins. The trigger fires because you load it. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained, it is not by the thing, but by your estimate of it. A spark lands, but only burns if you fan it. Why do you arm? What could pass?" You feel the rush to move, to speak. But what if you pause? The pain flares, but it dims. You don't need to fight the trigger. You need to breathe through it. Hold the line. Let it fade. You don't have to react. Pausing for 5 seconds cuts reactive impulses by 25%. A breath shifts the battle. The silence holds. No longer a war zone. What shifts when you choose stillness over the spark? Principle 14. Release the story. Your mind weaves a narrative. Their silence, their distance, it means you failed. You tell yourself you weren't enough. You lost. You cling to this story as if it explains the loss. You think it's truth, understanding the why. But what is it, really? A fiction. You've spun this tale before. Late nights, crafting reasons, blaming yourself. Each line you write, another weight. The cost isn't in their absence. It's in the story you carry. You give away your present to a script you wrote alone. You don't see it until the silence strips it bare. The story grows because you tell it. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. A cloud passes. It doesn't own the sky. Why do you hold a tale that binds you? You feel the pull to rewrite, to justify. But what if you release? The loss aches, but it fades. You don't need the story. You need your own ground. Let go. Let the words dissolve. The void is where it clears. A man burned his journal. Pages of blame turned to ash. He walked away, lighter, unscripted. The silence settles. No longer a story's cage. What shifts when you live without the why? Principle 15. Face the numbness. The quiet falls, and you feel it. A dull weight, not sharp, not loud, just numbness. You turn away, reach for noise, for anything to break the haze. You suppress, push it down, as if ignoring could erase it. You think it's survival, staying busy, staying distracted. But what is it, really? A surrender. You felt this before. The gray fog, the urge to escape. Each time, you fled, and it grew thicker. The cost isn't in the feeling, it's in your refusal to meet it. You give away your awareness to a haze you won't name. You don't see it until the silence forces you to look. The numbness lingers because you let it hide. Epictetus said, "What need is there to fear what is? A shadow looms, but only shrinks when faced. Why do you run from what's already here? You feel the pull to drown it, to move on. But what if you sit with it? The numbness presses, but it shifts. You don't need to fight it. You need to observe it. Be here. Let it pass through. Stillness is enough." A woman sat, eyes closed, feeling the weight. She didn't move, didn't distract, just breathed. The fog lifted, not all at once, but enough. The silence holds, no longer a blur. What shifts when you stand in the numbness, unafraid? Principle 16. Withdraw from the plea. You feel it rise. The urge to reach out, to soften their silence, to mend the gap. You want to please, to show you're still here, still worthy. You draft the message, fingers poised, thinking it's care. But what is it, really? A plea. You've stood here before, offering words, chasing their gaze. Each attempt a step deeper into invisible. You think, if you try harder, they'll see you. But the cost isn't in their dismissal. It's in your offering. You give away your dignity to a void that doesn't answer. You don't see it until the quiet lays it bare. The plea grows because you fuel it. Marcus Aurelius said, "You need no one to complete your soul. A tree stands. It doesn't beg the wind to stay. Why do you offer what they won't take? You feel the pull to prove, to be enough. But what if you withdraw? The pain stings, but it settles. You don't need their acceptance. You need your own center. Say less. Let their silence be theirs." You can end without drama. A man stared at his phone, unsent words glowing. He locked the screen, walked away. The quiet wasn't empty. It was his. The silence deepens. No longer a please echo. What shifts when you choose your own weight over theirs? Principle 17. Break the replay. The scene plays again. Their words, their look, the moment it broke. You rewind, frame by frame, overthink, as if studying it could change the end. You think it's clarity, finding what went wrong. But what is it, really? A chain. Each loop, another lock. You're not learning. You're drowning. You've watched this before. Late nights, replaying the grief, expecting answers. Each cycle, the same regret. Heavier now. The cost isn't in what happened. It's in your refusal to stop. You give away your present to a past that's gone. You don't see it until the silence cuts the tape. The replay runs because you press play. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere. A river flows. It doesn't circle back. Why do you linger on a moment that's dead? You feel the pull to watch, to understand. But what if you step back? The grief burns, but it fades. You don't need to solve the past. You need to be here. Disengage. Let the scene dissolve. Not doing is power too." A man sat, haunted by a single day. He closed the memory, breathed, and saw today instead. The weight lifted, not all at once, but enough. The silence holds, no longer a screen for ghosts. What shifts when you choose now over then? Principle 18. Hold your ground. The urge hits to bend, to soften your stance, to meet their terms. You feel it, the pull to please, to keep the peace, to not be left. You think it's strength, holding things together. But what is it? Really? A compromise. You've shifted before, adjusted, apologized, for things not yours. Each time, you lost a piece of yourself. The cost isn't in their approval. It's in your surrender. You give away your center to their demands. You don't see it until the isolation sets in. You're not connecting. You're erasing. The shame grows, not from their rejection, but from your retreat. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stand straight, not straightened by others." A pillar holds. It doesn't sway for the storm. Why do you lean when you could stand? You feel the pull to give in, to be seen. But what if you hold the line? The pain stings, but it roots you. You don't need their agreement. You need your own resilience. Stay still. Let their tide pass. You don't owe anything. A woman faced a demand. Her instinct screamed to yield. She paused, stood tall, and the pressure broke against her. The quiet was hers, unshaken. The silence settles, your ground unbroken. What shifts when you anchor in your own truth? Principle 19, see without judging. The thought lands. Their silence, their choice, their absence. You label it. Failure, rejection, proof you're not enough. You judge yourself through their lens, as if it holds the truth. You think it's clarity, understanding your place. But what is it? Really, a distortion. You've done this before, weighed your worth by their actions, and sank under the shame. Each judgment, another cut. The cost isn't in their distance, it's in your verdict. You give away your peace to a scale you don't control. You don't see it until the silence strips the lens. The judgment grows because you sharpen it. Epictetus said, "You are not your impressions. You are the one who sees them." A cloud shifts. It doesn't define the sky. Why do you name what only passes? You feel the pull to blame, to measure. But what if you observe? The shame stings, but it fades. You don't need to judge it. You need to witness it. Be here. Let the labels fall. Seeing is enough. A man watched a memory unfold. He didn't call it loss. He breathed, and it passed like smoke. The silence remained, unjudged. The silence holds, no longer a courtroom. What shifts when you see without adding weight? Principle 20. Breathe through the void. The quiet comes uninvited. No sound, no answer, just space. You feel it, the emptiness, like a tide pulling you under. You want to fill it with noise, with action, with anything. You avoid because facing it feels like falling. You think it's protection, keeping the void at bay. But what is it, really? A retreat. You fled this before, turned away, buried the stillness. Each time, the fear grew, a shadow cast longer. The cost isn't in the silence, it's in your refusal to meet it. You give away your presence to a space you won't claim. You don't see it until the void demands your gaze. The emptiness waits because you let it loom. Seneca said, "Nothing is heavy when you accept it." A desert stretches, but it holds no chains. Why do you run from what's already yours? You feel the pull to distract, to escape. But what if you breathe through? The void presses, but it shifts. You don't need to conquer it. You need to be here. Stay still. Let it pass through you. Stillness is enough. A woman stood, alone in the dark. She didn't move, didn't speak, just breathed. The emptiness wasn't her enemy. It was her ground. The silence settles. Your own. What remains when you stand in the void unafraid? The phone rests, face down, silent. No hum, no glow, just breath. You didn't check, didn't reach, didn't chase. The urge came and passed. You stood still, and the world didn't break. The quiet wraps around you. Not heavy, not empty, just yours. You held back from the noise, from the pull, from their absence. A moment, raw, unscripted. That stillness, was it surrender or command? You don't need to answer. You need to S-E-E. Silence is where you stand again.